Hello and welcome to the Pitch Side podcast. I'm your host, the HOD, the BSB. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast, which you can listen to on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. And follow us on social media. I'm at Side BSB on Twitter, Pitch Side Pod on Instagram. Welcome to episode 152 of the podcast, and join us always for more. You are welcome.
Kicking off the episode, we have to start with Spain. Of course, the action from Laliga yesterday. 3 matches took place on Tuesday. Osasuna defeated Cadiz 3-2 at home. Elche lost to Deportivo Alaves at home 2-0. And then, of course, in the big match, and the match is going to be important, I think, for the overall title race this season. Levante forced a draw out of Barcelona 3-3 at home. I mean, listen, this was a game that Barcelona dominated. I mean, they were the better side by a mile, I think, in terms of, possession, or at least creating opportunities and all of that. But when you have a horrendous defending like they do, I think you can absolutely expect to lose some goals the way they did. And again, Barcelona have come a long way, I think, from the woes of the 8-2 loss against Bayern, the early season form, the fact that they didn't have sort of a proper shape. Ronald Koeman, I think, credit to him for improving the side a little bit from what could have been a horrendous season overall. Winning a trophy in the Copa del Rey, at least that would be, that would count for him, at least as an exploit, as an achievement this season. Improving the side's form, they're not exactly slouches this season. I mean, they performed really well, Barcelona. They are the strongest attack, in fact, in Spain, which is a pretty good statistic to lean on when you have such a bad defense like that. Because you look at the defensive record for Barcelona, they are, I think, they are the 5th best defense in the league this season, which is saying something, considering that they are second on the table. The fact that Real Sociedad, who are 5th on the table, have stronger defense than them, really tells you the whole story. Barcelona, haven't been able to keep clean sheets for their lives as of late. They kept it against Atletico Madrid, but I think that was expected, I would say, and probably was more because Atletico Madrid missed a lot of chances rather than Barcelona actually having strong defense. You look at the matches Barcelona had. The last clean sheet Barcelona kept was in La Liga before the draw against Atletico Madrid was back in early April. And that was against Real Valladolid in a 1-0 victory. How hard that was. Then you have a loss in a classic, of course. The Copa del Rey match doesn't count really. Again, I'm talking about the league only. Then you have conceding twice against Getafe, conceding a goal against Villarreal, twice against Granada. In that loss, I think that would be proving crucial overall for their title hopes. Then you can see twice against Valencia, and then of course the clean sheet against Atletico Madrid, albeit again because Atletico missed a slew of opportunities. And then you have this draw against Levante. The first half, I think, was brilliant for Barcelona, as most of their first halves are. They start brilliantly, they play really well, but I think when you make certain changes and you really make changes that don't make sense, you really pay the price. And obviously in this one, the case related for Sergio Roberto, who came on for an injured Araujo early on in the second half. You have a pretty fit Oscar Mingueza on the bench. Why you didn't put him on instead of Araujo? Made a straight swap. He took off Pedri for Oscar Mingueza, and he took off Araujo for Sergio Roberto. Araujo's injured, so I don't know what he was thinking. He decided to play with 4 at the back at the worst moment. Then he took out Mingueza and put Sergio Roberto up front. Then Sergio Dest came in for Ousmane Dembele, Martin Braithwaite coming in for Griezmann. Ricky Puig gets some play time, by the way, which is a very astonishing achievement, I would say, for Ronald Koeman, considering the fact that he sidelined him and put him in the fridge pretty much for a while now. It's call off the search, that is, because we found Ricky Puig finally. But that came after the third goal from Levante. A horrendous defensive performance, I think, from Barcelona for the 3 goals. The second goal in particular is a disgrace. is an absolute disgrace. Mark ter Stegen, of course, plays, Barcelona playing from the back. He starts the attack, then it is lost by Messi in the midfield. I mean, we have to talk about that. I mean, that's the fact. The facts are Messi lost it in the midfield, gave the ball away. Roger Marti, took the ball, assisted Jose Luis Morales for the second goal. It was a weird second goal. Like, in 2 minutes, Barcelona lost two goals. Like, they were leading 2-0, then they conceded twice in the space of 2 minutes. And then they had a couple of minutes where they dominated, created opportunities, scored the third goal thanks to Ousmane Dembele, but then they receded in the back in a weird way. Like, they sat in defence in an absolutely unacceptable manner at certain points, and in a bad shape, really. I mean, when you have Sergio Roberto not positioning himself really well, you have Piqué and Longley, doing all sorts of bad things at the back, and then you have Jordi Alba, not being positioned well as well for the first goal. You really can see how bad Barcelona's defense is and how badly they need a replacement and they need an improvement in that defense in order to actually, actually play for titles. The problem is never attack. It will never be attack because Barcelona, they will bring some big players in the attack and they will have some players in La Masia that will be great in attack, but they don't have great defenders at the moment and they need some certain replacement in certain positions. The midfield could be blamed a little bit, but I think the defense has to take the biggest chunk of responsibility for the 3 goals. Really, they were horrendous on each goal. The positioning was really, really bad. The marking was really weird, considering that, I mean, particularly the first goal was a header from Gonzalo Mulero, and considering Gonzalo Mulero isn't exactly the tallest player on the pitch. Like, he's 183 centimeters, but still, he's not taller than Piqué or Longley, so you expect them to get the ball with him, but somehow they don't, and, they concede a header in a weird way, with Griezmann, of all people, marking, Roger Marti on the cross. So, definitely, this was a bad game defensively for Barcelona, a result that will not help the third game in a row where they don't win. It's like a streak now going for Barcelona. But I don't think that they lost the league here if they lose it here. I think they lost it in the game against Granada. The game against Granada, that is, I think, where they officially lost the league. The loss at Camp Nou, it really blew their chances away in winning the trophy, despite the other teams doing their best to trip themselves over and try and hand Barcelona an advantage somehow. But that won't happen, of course. Mathematically, again, they're still in it. They would need miracles, I think, to happen around. They will need Atletico and Real Madrid to drop points in the round, but I don't think that will happen pretty easily. Atletico are not going to let their game go against Sociedad. It's going to be a big game, regardless. Sevilla play Valencia, of course, today. Celta Vigo, Getafe, Huesca versus Bilbao, and Atletico Madrid versus Real Sociedad. These are the games for Wednesday. On Thursday, Real Valladolid plays Villarreal, Eibar Betis, and Granada hosts Real Madrid. For Barcelona, the only hope is in the hands of the Madrid sides now, because, I know the exaggeration maybe in the title, saying Barcelona hand La Liga title to Madrid, but I think they did. That's what they did with their draw, and that's what they did with the latest results that they're having, with the latest performances that they're having, and with the latest, shambolic defensive outing that they're having this season. So that's what I think is going to be happening. Barcelona's results are playing right into Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid's hand, keep them in the race, keep Real Madrid in the race, and of course give Atletico the ready advantage that they have on top of the table. 4 points could go now with 2 games left of the season. It is going to be hard for Barcelona to come back from that if Atletico Madrid indeed manage to make it 4 points, and even for Real Madrid it's going to be hard to catch up to that. To the Premier League we go now, and 2 matches took place yesterday, with Manchester United hosting Leicester City and Southampton hosting Crystal Palace. Of course, Leicester City defeated United at home 2-1 at Crystal Palace, lost Southampton 3-1 at home. I think it was expected, the loss for Manchester United, for a multitude of reasons. First of all, even if they play their best lineup, probably they will keep them a little bit fresh, for the game against Liverpool on Thursday, tomorrow that is. But definitely, I think a more important reason is the fact they played almost their reserve side. They played, players that never had a chance to make a name for themselves. Amad Diallo getting his first Premier League start. Nemanja Matic and Donny van de Beek starting in the midfield, Eric Bailly and Axel Tuanzebe, their first start in the Premier League together as a pair. Brandon Williams playing on the right, Alex Telles playing on the left. By the way, Brandon Williams starting on the right, it shows you how bad Man United need a replacement as a right back. They need a second right back. I mean, they have Luke Shaw and have Alex Telles on the left hand side, but definitely, Brandon Williams cannot be replacement on the right hand side. He just doesn't cut it. Anthony Elanga, of course, made his first start for Manchester United yesterday. He is a 19-year-old Swedish from the Man United Academy, of course. I mean, he had a good game for the amount of time he played. I mean, he participated really well and contributed in the game, but definitely the night belonged to Leicester City. You expect them to win, really, against the reserve side of Man United. I mean, that would have been horrendous if they didn't beat this side of Man United, really. I mean, when Juan Mata and Nemanja Matic are experienced players in that squad and are your big name players, you know that something is wrong, really. I mean, no disrespect for Donny van de Beek, but he didn't get so much play time this season. He didn't get the amount of time that he would need to prove himself for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, for the United fans who feel sorry for him in a certain way, but definitely try and push him to be an important member of the Man United squad. Opening the score early did Luke Thomas in the 10th minute by assist from Rudy Tielemans. Mason Greenwood equalised quickly in the 15th minute. The game was, ebbing and flowing. Leicester City was slightly better side. United expected a side like that with the amount of changes happening that they won't dominate the ball. They didn't. And Leicester City were the better side. They scored the second in the 66th minute from a set-piece defending from Saklar Yonshu. And, that is expected as well. Again, there's no real, experienced heads in the back at the moment, with Maguire, of course, injured, Lindelof on the bench. And, of course, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer made some changes late on. Got in some first-team players, gave them some minutes before the game against Liverpool. Cavani, Rashford, and Bruno Fernandes. Of course, they made only 3 changes. Those are the only things available. Leicester City only made 2. United, of course, are on the grind. They still have a game against Liverpool coming on Thursday. Obviously, ask yourself why that game would matter. First of all, because it's the biggest game in English football, really, Man United versus Liverpool. And then maybe they will have a personal objective to dethrone Liverpool, to deny them the top 4 spots, to try and derail their hopes. This loss for Leicester City, or this loss for United, really, is, I think, a loss for Liverpool as well, because Liverpool are getting further and further from Leicester City, further and further from Chelsea. Now that is 7 points behind Chelsea, 9 points behind Leicester City. Yes, they have a game in hand, of course, which they're going to be playing against Man United on Thursday. But definitely, you think of this as, a loss that would put a big dent in Liverpool's quest for a top 4, and a result that would help Leicester secure the top 4 spots. I don't really see them dropping below 4th. They will be in the Champions League this season, I think, no doubt about it, with 8 points separating them from West Ham, 9 separating them from Liverpool. I don't think that there's any chance that anybody's going to upstage them at 3rd, unless it's Chelsea. The worst that could happen for Leicester at the moment is that Chelsea are going to be 3rd, and that, Leicester going to drop to 4th. Of course, today Chelsea face Arsenal. Speaking of them, they face Arsenal in a game that, it looks like a one-sided game. It looks like Chelsea might maul Arsenal around, and with the form Arsenal are in, the morale that they're in, the fact that they won't play European football, so they won't really get excited for the rest of the season, you expect a mauling from Chelsea, really, and with the form that Chelsea are in at the moment, pretty terrifying form for any team that's going to be playing against them. They just beat Manchester City. Congratulations for them for officially winning the Premier League, by the way. This might be a one-sided game, as one-sided game could come, but we were wrong in the past about this. The first game, we said the same thing, really, about Chelsea, the fact that they would maul Arsenal through, but Arsenal, that was the game that I think revitalised their season, quote-unquote, by beating Chelsea, of course, 3-1 at that tie, and certainly Another victory for Arsenal would be huge. I mean, insignificant, more or less, but it would definitely be huge for Arsenal, at least morally speaking. But for Chelsea, a victory now is going to keep them on that road, keep them on that good momentum, heading, of course, into the finals in their season, the FA Cup final on Saturday, and, of course, the Champions League final on the 28th of May. That's a big and tremendous task ahead of Chelsea. Those two finals in the Premier League, and the Premier League top 4 spots, I think, pretty secured, I would say, for them as well. So they will only need to worry in the moment about the FA Cup final and also about the Champions League final looming in the background. Finishing off with Serie A and finishing with of course, Napoli defeating Udinese 5-1. This result might be alone yesterday, but of course it's a big result and a significant one for the top 4 battle at the moment in Serie A. Of course, the pressure is on Juventus now at the moment to deliver in their game against Sassuolo, a big test for them, and after the loss against AC Milan, the ghost of the Europa League is really looming. I think the only positive thing for Juventus at the moment is that Lazio didn't win their game against Fiorentina. The fact that Fiorentina defeated them and derailed that bit of momentum at the moment. I don't think they will have the same, the same zing in them to be in the top 4, because it looks, for all intents and purposes, that Lazio are not going to make it and is going to be going down between Napoli, Atalanta, Milan, and Juventus. And if Juventus lose today against Sassuolo or drop points in whichever way they draw or lose, I think it will be the end of their quest. I think officially I could say that Juventus are not going to be making it into the Champions League. Lazio, of course, still have a game in hand, by the way, so you don't know how the situation is going to play out with that game, of course. Thus, they will have 3 games left for them, not 2. But, I mean, for Juventus, we definitely have to ask ourselves what went wrong for them. But I don't think we should ask it in that way. I think nothing went right for them in the first place this season for things to go wrong. I mean, the fact that they chose Pirlo, of all people, to coach them, someone who's literally his first job is coaching Juventus, and that is big for anybody. Even inexperienced coaches would struggle coaching Juve, let alone unexperienced coaches like Pirlo. Yes, he's a legend, he's a revered player, he's a big name in Juventus, a big name in the Italian football as a player. But I think as a coach, he's really doing himself a big disservice. I don't think that after this stint with Juve, and particularly if they don't get into the Champions League, I don't think they will remember him in a good way. I don't think the Juve fans will remember Pirlo in a good way as a manager. Just as the Chelsea fans, they would remember, Frank Lampard as a great manager for them with the stint that they had with them. Pirlo's the whole responsibility is gonna fall on Pirlo's shoulder. I mean, in a certain way it is, but definitely the players didn't help their case though. They didn't help them, they didn't perform really well. You cannot ask yourself for better performances, I think, from a Juventus side that doesn't have a proper shape. The players being a little bit lousy and lazy in their performances at a certain point. Probably you could argue that Cuadrado is the best player in the Juve squad. And listen, I know Cristiano Ronaldo is the top scorer, 27 goals and all, and I know he's important for the team. But I think as far as performance is concerned, I think Cuadrado really outshines him. He performs overly better than Cristiano Ronaldo does and any other player in Juve does. He's the sort of a bright spot, him and Chiesa, to be fair, in a bad season for Juve, in a really horrendous season on the European football. They got out from the Champions League in the round of 16 in a pretty horrendous fashion as well. They are in the cup final, but I really don't see them winning against an Atalanta side that is in absolute fire at the moment and ending the season in a pretty superb form. And again, an Atalanta side that I said again and again, that if they had the same form early on in the season, they would have been challenging into neck and neck for the title this season, and they would have probably won it as well. Juventus again play against Sassuolo, a game that, the first tie of it in Turin was pretty harsh for Juventus. Yes, they defeated them 3-1, but it was, unlike the score suggesting, it was not how the score suggested that game. The game was pretty tough, and Sassuolo, whenever they had opportunities in that game, they really were dangerous, and they threatened Juventus going forward. So you have to expect, really, the same hard game for them. Interface Roma in their victory lap, sort of weeks left in the season. Of course, they face Juventus next weekend. They face Juventus in the weekend, and that is going to be another huge game for Juve as well. They have Roma, of course, against Lazio in the weekend. It's going to be a big last couple of matches for Juve if they want to make it to the top four. I think it looks like a miraculous task to beat Sassuolo, Inter, and Bologna in those last couple of games. And that is not because the games are hard, but I think because Juventus themselves made it hard for them in each and every game to win. You cannot really remember a lot of games where you see Juventus, winning comfortably. I don't really remember a lot of performances where Juventus really stood out and dominated the game and won comfortably in the end. Even at the performances where they win by 3-1 or 4-1, they still find a way to struggle. They still find a way to sort of, to really put themselves at risk, even at the most comfortable situations. So back to the Napoli vs Udinese game. It's a big win for the Napolitano, certainly to improve their chances of the top 4 spots. They go second momentarily at the moment. At the table. The good thing is that Juventus are not going to overleap them. Whatever result they will have are not going to overleap. Napoli, Atalanta have the chance to. Milan have the chance to if they beat Torino. Atalanta, you expect them to beat Benevento, really, with the form they're in at the moment. Torino, you expect them to lose against Milan as well. They're still embroiled in that battle for relegation. They're not safe, really, but they still, but a little bit far from Benevento, the first of the 3 bottom table spots. Again, Napoli with a big win amidst talks about getting rid of Gattuso, which is weird for me because I really think that Gattuso is doing a good job. I mean, at least in the second half of the season, he's doing a tremendous job with Napoli. Why they would sack him, I really don't know. I think he deserves an opportunity at improving himself. If he gets to the Champions League, I think he improves the club a lot, and he gets, I think, another result that he deserves, and gets maybe another chance to do better with Napoli next season, to start from the beginning with this kind of form, because they have been so good in the second half of the season in particular. A tremendous victory for Napoli, and of course, again, the biggest point is all the pressure is on Juventus, and I think all the world is going to follow Juventus today as they play against Sassuolo away from home. It is going to be, life and death, I think, for Juve if they want to keep any remote opportunity and chance to be in the top 4 of the Serie A this season. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. That's it from me for this episode. I was your boy, the HOD of the BSB. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast, and of course follow us on social media site BSB on Twitter, page on Instagram. And until next time, I'll be seeing you soon. Goodbye.